Hello everyone, here's Ulrike Sophia, your full-time intimacy activist from exploringdeeper.com. And today I want to talk with you about red flags in workshops again, and specifically about enablers. Me and my colleague Rupert James have been creating a document you may have seen on different flags, red, orange, yellow, green flags in workshops that help you discern if a workshop is safe enough. And we have finished our second brochure on the different roles that people have in circumstances of abuse or harmful situations. And we will release it soon. We will release it soon in the first week of January. We're going to release it. So until then, and it's all going to be freely available on redflagsinworkshops.com and here and everywhere. But until then, I just wanted to highlight a few things. And last time I talked about apologists. You can find that previous video here as well. And today I want to talk about enablers. So what are enablers? You know, when there's a situation of harm, it's easy to understand there's someone causing the harm and someone experiencing the harm. But it's usually not those two people alone that are involved in the situation. There's always people around who know something is happening, who might not do anything, or who might even support the harm being caused, support the abuse. And people who actively support, those are the ones called enablers. And if we're looking at workshops, like workshops that we all might be in, like tantra workshops or in the conscious sexuality field or kink or plant medicine or wherever, what can it look like? Well, enablers can be the people who promote the workshop, like actively promote the workshop of facilitators that they know have caused harm. They might be the ones who are their organizers, who have the venue, who open their venue knowingly. They might be the people who, they're not another thing that happens a lot is that enablers use victim shaming. So they know something's going on, but they might silence the victims by saying, for example, like, oh, but they are doing such good work, you cannot give them a bad name. Or things like, oh, but you're probably exaggerating, it must not have been so bad. Enablers can also be the people who, and this really happens, like who know abuse is happening, who know that there is this room and this teacher invites people to their room, and they know because in the past abuse or harm would happen in that room, and still they literally take someone by the hand and bring them there. And like literally give them into the hands of a supposed perpetrator. They might be the ones encouraging a target. A target is another word for like a victim or someone who experienced abuse. They might find new people, like, you know, the ones who get people into a cult, who walk around and like actively groom people or like invite people to join a cult. Those are enablers too. And it can be scary to think like, have I ever been an enabler? And I know for myself that I have been an enabler. I used to work with other teachers, and there were teachers that I knew had a bad rep. And one of them would say like, oh, but that's in the past, that's not happening anymore. And I trusted them and worked with them. And later on, and gathered people, brought this teacher into my community. And then later on found out that the harm was ongoing. It did not stop when they said it had stopped. So I exposed my entire community to that teacher, where they could, you know, find new victims. Later on, when I found out that the harm was still ongoing, I like immediately cut ties with that person and wrote a public statement about it, and talked with a lot of people. Like, oh my gosh, I was, you know, someone creating space for more harm to happen. And later on, it happened again with another teacher where there were good stories, there were a few conflicting stories. My gut was like, I'm not entirely sure. But they do such good work, and there's no real bad stories. So I worked with them once or twice. And again, I brought someone into my community. And actually, there were some not so good experience during the time that we worked together in my spaces, which was super, super confronting. And I remember, this is some years ago, I remember that I went into a freeze in that moment, and I could not speak up. I couldn't do anything because I was in this freeze mode, right? You may notice that when you are in a harmful situation or in the situations where your boundaries are crossed, you know, in the past, when it was about, at least in the Netherlands, when you were a sexual assault survivor, if you would not have said no, then it wouldn't really count as assault. And now they changed the law. And actually, if it's not an active yes, it's a no. Acknowledging that people can have a freeze response and might not be able to say no, or like make sure that tell that, hey, this is my boundary. And I noticed that I had that experience with that teacher in the space when this teacher was approaching a student for, you know, private reasons, let's call it that. And I just froze. I couldn't do anything until weeks later that I approached this teacher and said, hey, we need to talk because something happened and it was not okay. So I was an enabler in those situations. And I think we are all enablers in some moments in our lives when we know something is going on, but we let it happen, and we might actually actively let it happen. So it's different from bystanders. You know, bystanders are people who see it happen, who don't do anything. So in a case like this, a bystander could be someone who's in a workshop, who sees something is going on, but is not doing anything, which is a difference from an enabler who might actively, you know, promote, co-create, collaborate, organize, open their venue for someone that they know is not just good business. Or they might be good business, but not good. Which is one of the things that it can be really hard to not be an enabler when you are co-creating with someone, because maybe the person you're co-creating with has a good name too. And for your business, it can be very tempting to use their good name, to be linked to their good name. It can be commercially interesting. They might bring in a lot of money for your venue, for your organization, for your business, for your brand. And also, you know, perpetrators benefit from enablers. They have a lot to lose. How do you say it? Perpetrators benefit from enablers because then there's other people who say like, hey, this is a good person, or like who bring in people, who continuously bring in people. And for enablers, when they are linked to an organization or a teacher that, you know, has a big name, it can be harder and harder to stop being the enabler, because, you know, there is a lot that you have to lose. I know I had a lot to lose with both these two. Actually, it happened 3 times that I cut ties with a teacher for different reasons where I felt like an enabler. And it did cost me money. It cost me a lot of ranting, a lot of hate. Well, hate. Yeah, in 2 of the 3 cases, it did cause hate to come my way, where the teacher and also friends of the teacher would attack me and be like, why do you cut ties with them? What's the reason for this? So it can be really hard to stop being an enabler. But I do see it happening so much in our circles, in the conscious sexuality, in the Tantra scene, where there are teachers who have caused harm and it's known. And there are festival organizers or producers that still line them up, who defend them, who are also being an apologist, see previous video, can be part of being an enabler. You can have multiple roles. So those organizers or co-teachers or young teachers who ally with this known teacher, they will defend them and they will produce them. And if an outside person, I've had this experience many times where I would communicate to this organizer or someone that I know, or this festival host, like, hey, do you know about these stories? Do you know that there are mixed stories or stories of, you know, harm about this facilitator? And I would get attacked. Like right now, there's a smear campaign going on about me because I'm calling out some organizers for actually someone who really, really caused a lot of harm, who's coming to the Netherlands. And those organizers are really attacking me when I tell them, like, do you know that this is happening? And they will say, like, but you are, you know, this is slander. You're doing bad things. You cannot say this about them. This is a witch hunt. Like all these things. And it's not. It's just saying, do you know that there are mixed signals? Do you know that you are actually enabling potential harm being caused? Yeah. So, There's also a whole story I can say about flying monkeys, but I think I'm going to save that for next time. Flying monkeys are a specific type of enabler, and if you are in online discussions, you probably had some flying monkeys coming right at you. But let's save that for next time. Wishing you good days, and if you have any questions about enablers and stuff, put them in the comments, and yeah, see you around. See you next time. Bye!